Shares of Hims and Hers and Duolingo are down big as the market is currently skeptical about the companies and their futures. For Hims, the Novo Nordisk lawsuit has led to a general sentiment of negativity as shares are down 75% from their all-time highs. For Duolingo, fears of AI disrupting their business model, a slowdown in growth, and general negativity is dominating the sentiment as shares are trading down 80% from their all-time highs. So both companies are undergoing a period of polarization where one end of the market is screaming that the companies are soon to go bankrupt, while another end is screaming that this is a generational investment opportunity. Today, I'll hopefully offer some nuance into this debate. Going into earnings this week, Hims and Hers is reporting their earnings on Monday and Duolingo is reporting their earnings on Thursday. So this gives us, as investors, the chance to check in on their financial and fundamental developments. In this video, I will give you a preview of what I will be looking for. First, I'll talk about the common denominators for these companies, focusing on them being platform companies and what drives value for these types of companies in general. Second, I'll explain the KPIs and value creation drivers I'll monitor for each respective company, and it might not be what you think, so let's get into it. So first of all, for both companies, it is the case that they are both platform companies running on large proprietary datasets, constantly iterating, fine-tuning, and improving their user experiences. For these companies, it is evident that they run on data feedback loops, and that these being powered by AI will lead to exponential growth and accelerations to their flywheels. Yesterday, I was listening to the earnings call of Lemonade, the company, and I heard CEO Daniel Schreiber talking about these feedback loops, these data feedback loops, so these flywheels, and how they continue to yield better experiences and differentiated outcomes. So let's hear what Daniel, the CEO of Lemonade, had to say.
Continue to be highly focused on growth and accelerating growth because it's a gift that keeps on giving. Faster growth drives better data and further sharpens our segmentation and pricing capabilities. This powers improving underwriting performance and rapid gross profit growth, and we can swiftly redeploy gross profit thus generated into profitable growth investments with compelling unit economics. And so the cycle continues. It's energizing to see the flywheel continue to compound even as we scale.
So here he said that growth and growth acceleration leads to better outcomes, right? So for both companies, I will basically be looking for the same. Lemonade, Hims and Hers, and Duolingo are very similar in the respects that they are platform companies running on large proprietary datasets being yielded by artificial intelligence to improve user outcomes, right? So for both companies, I will be looking for growth, both in terms of revenue, free cash flow, and margins. Obviously, I'll look at those things, right? But most importantly, I'll focus on whether the companies are positioning themselves to capture the full market, allowing the companies to yield better results, performances, and spinning the feedback loops even more, as Daniel said, right? So this whole feedback loop, this flywheel going back and improving the way it spins, meaning that basically for Hims and Duolingo, I'll be monitoring user growth as a metric of their ability to attract more customers and their ability to provide value to a growing amount of users. For both companies, it is the case that they are platforms in two respective sectors. Multiple times I've used an article by Sarah Tavel to explain what actually matters when running a platform marketplace company, and it's not what you think it is. Successful platform companies tend to create winner-takes-most situations. And as you can see on the screen, this is not done by focusing on monetization, but it is done on focusing on creating value and happiness, right? It is not about how well they're able to monetize in the short term, but is the case of how well they manage to create happiness, stating that scale is not your moat, happiness is. So for a platform, it is about creating happiness, creating better user outcomes. So for these companies, for Hims and Hers and Duolingo, I'll be mainly tracking how well they manage to create value for their users in order to spin these flywheel effects, as Daniel Schreiber said. As we can see here, the Hims and Hers flywheel is built on better health outcomes. So that is what accelerates and spins the flywheel. Basically, it runs on how much value and personalized health optimization they can yield. This flywheel shows that structured data and deeper insights leads to data-driven, personalized solutions, yielding higher quality health outcomes, which brings more subscribers onto the platform, which gives them more differentiated, personalized, contextual data, right? For Duolingo, the same is the case. Here it's not just a flywheel, but sort of an infinity loop, right? So one loop that just keeps on giving feedback to the other, keeping on spinning these loops and just doing so infinitely, right? So for Duolingo, the same is the case as I said. As we see data leading to better insights, yielding a greater efficiency, right? So we saw the same thing with Hims and Hers, with better personalized health data leading to better health outcomes, bringing on more learners, so bringing on more users to the platform, increasing the amount of paid subscribers, leading to better ability to invest, which continues to drive and spin these data feedback loops, right? Because now you have better ability to actually analyze and do data analysis and A/B tests, yielding better insights. Data is the key for these platforms. Getting a larger proprietary data set is key for Duolingo and for Hims and Hers. So what I'm trying to say here is when you're monitoring these companies, and especially in these earlier stages, it is a qualitative practice, bounding on how well they create value for subscribers and users. And if they manage to do so well, monetization will follow in the long term, as Jeff Bezos said in his annual share letter of 2003. Increasing value for customers will in the long run drive up the bottom line, will in the long run be beneficial for investors, but it is all about improving user outcomes, spinning these feedback loops. On the quote you're seeing on the screen right now, it is about how Amazon spun their flywheel feedback loop in the early stages, right? So lowering prices, bringing on more customers to the platform actually hurt the bottom line in the short run. But as he says here in the bottom, it is about creating more happiness, creating a better value proposition for end users, and thus increasing the bottom line over the long term. So put simply, I'll look for whether they are building their platform for the future, positioning themselves to achieving success in their mission and capturing all of their respective markets. And also, I'll be obviously checking whether my thesis is intact, right? So for Hims and Hers, the case is what allows them to democratize access to personalized healthcare at scale. That is my thesis, and that is what will drive value for customers and in the end for investors, right? So what is it that allows them to democratize access to personalized health at scale? And if you're here about the Novo Nordisk lawsuit, I have a video right here where I talk about that, stating why I'm not worried. And obviously, I will listen to management and what they have to say about that, but it is not a major concern and it does not deter the company achieving their mission of democratizing access to health at scale. All right, so hopefully I've made it very clear that by now, the thing that I'm tracking is their subscriber growth, the growth of their user base, because this, in essence, is what allows them to spin these data feedback loops, right? Getting more data onto their platform, getting more contextual awareness of what happens on their platform, on their users. Hims and Hers has just under 2.5 million users on their platform, and I'll be checking in on growth in terms of this, right? And the main thing that I'll be tracking and the main thing that I actually care a lot about when it comes to Hims and Hers, this whole idea of personalization is something that I care a lot about when it comes to Hims and Hers, because this is what, in my opinion, will drive up the value for them in the long term, right? It is not only about data, it is about getting contextual insights about personalized healthcare needs. So as we can see here, the percentage of personalized subscribers on the Hims and Hers platform is going up. So relative to personalized and non-personalized subscribers, I want to see personalized subscribers taking on share in terms of their total user base, right? Because this is what will enable Hims and Hers to actually achieve their mission, access to personalized healthcare at scale. So this is something that matters a lot to me. How much of their subscriber base is on a personalized plan? And is this number increasing, right? Is this relative amount increasing? Something that I'm also tracking, but doing so over the long term, trend-wise. So is it trending up or is it trending down? Is their monthly revenue per average online subscriber, right? So this line right here, is this going up over the long term or is it going down? In my opinion, this is unlocked by their ability to cross-sell and sell different features on their platform. And labs will obviously unlock a huge gain in this, right? Because you'll get more quality health insights, allowing you to take more medicines, making you more contextually aware of what's going on inside you, right? So this revenue per average subscriber should trend up over the long term. and that's what I'm looking for. And this one going up, the personalized share of their subscriber base will also unlock that, right? Because when you're personalized, when you have your healthcare needs tailored to your specific needs, you will have more consumption. You will consume more, obviously, because you're more aware of what goes on inside your body. You'll be taking on a more preventative, proactive role in your health. And as I mentioned labs, I'll also look for developments on their labs offering. In my opinion, and I've mentioned this previously, labs is what will drive value up for the end user over the long term. So I'll look and listen to them speaking about future price reductions in labs. This is a major idea of mine, right? So they have to lower prices in order to democratize access to personalized health at scale. And they have already done this once. And I'll listen for them talking about the user uptake and how users are reacting to the labs offering. I have made a video about my Hims thesis stating why labs is a major concern of mine here, right? Why labs is what drives up the value over the long term. And you can watch that by clicking here. And finally, I'll listen to whether the company is reinstating, so reinforcing their 2030 guidance. So this is the long look, right? So this is the company's long-term plans and aspirations. So do they think that they can still achieve these? I still believe that they can do so. And I believe that they will exceed these numbers by a huge margin, right? So I'll listen to what the company and management has to say about this. For Hims and Hers, it is about subscriber growth. It is about the number of patients on a personalized plan and listening closely to whether management says something positive about labs, how management talks about user uptake on labs, how well patients have received this offering, right? How they see demand for labs, and also just if they reinstate their 2030 guidance. There's nothing special that I'm sort of looking at. So it's mostly in basically whether they're building a platform for long-term success, whether they're building a platform to capture the full market of healthcare over the long term, right? And the same is the case for Duolingo. So basically, are they building a company that's positioning itself to capture most of the education market? Are they building a successful platform that has a great user experience? Are they building a platform that allows itself to spin these data flywheel effects? Is the company building a platform for the future? Are they succeeding on their mission, and is my thesis intact? So the idea is the same thing. For Duolingo, my thesis is that over the long term, they will become the teaching assistant to all teachers and the learning partner of all students. I have made a video about my Duolingo thesis, and you can watch it here. As it relates to the recent decline in stock price related to AI FUD, I have a video right here about why I'm not worried about Duolingo when it comes to AI as a headwind and why I see AI as a tailwind for the company, providing a great opportunity for the company. So last quarter, management of Duolingo, and especially Luis, said that they are balancing between three core initiatives on their platform, and they are switching the focus from monetization to another one of these core focuses. So they say here, we focus on three core areas as we work to continuously improve our product: monetization, user growth, and teaching better across all our subjects. And they state that these all affect each other both in the short term and over the long term. He says here that one of the most important parts of my job is balancing among these three core areas, both in terms of relative investment and navigating trade-offs between them. In Q3, we decided to shift the balance towards longer-term initiatives. In particular, we're investing proportionately more in teaching better, and we're prioritizing user growth over monetization in the A/B tests that get launched. So when you learn about Duolingo, you know that this is a company that is focused, and it is maniacally focused on doing these A/B tests, on constant iteration, on getting constant feedback of what works when they iterate on their platform and what does not work when they iterate on their platform, right? Duolingo is an A/B testing powerhouse that gets constant feedback, that gets constant input, contextual insights on what works well on their platform and what does not. So now they're focusing these tests on what allows them to get more subscribers on their platform, what allows them to teach better on their platform. And these are long-term growth initiatives. These will, over the long term, unlock more value for users on the platform, right? So this, as an investor, is one of these things, going back to the Jeff Bezos quote that I just showed you guys. Over the short term, this could be a hit to the bottom line, right? So focusing on subscriber growth over the short term could be a hit to the bottom line over the short term, but in the long term, this will increase the bottom line dramatically as they increase the value proposition that they offer their customers. while also increasing the monetization over the long term for their investors, right? So for Duolingo, I'll basically be listening to and looking at whether they're succeeding on this, whether they are getting more insights when it comes to this. So what do they say in terms of insights and contextual awareness when it comes to them growing their monthly active users? What do they say when it comes to probably the most important thing, that is daily active user growth? So how well are they creating a platform that actually engages their users, right? So I'll be looking and tuning in to see the growth in their DAOs and their MAUs, and probably most important, over time, their paid subscriber growth. So this is what they're not prioritizing as much right now. They are prioritizing their growth in their DAOs, in their mounts, and not necessarily the monetization, right? But I'll be listening and tuning into what they say and whether this trade-off actually unlocks a lot of long-term future monetary growth. And as we heard previously, it is not about the scale that you reach. It is not about the total monetary value captured by a platform in the short term. It is about how much happiness and how much value that the company can provide over the long term. And as we can see with Duolingo, they actually mentioned that they will be prioritizing better learning outcomes. So this is a great thing, right? This will obviously unlock a lot of happiness and value for users. So I'll be tracking these things. And also, of course, the paid subscription penetration rate. So as I said with Hims and Hers, in terms of the daily average subscriber monetization, revenue growth, right? This is a trend thing. I won't be selling this if this goes down in the short term. As I said, they aren't prioritizing this at the moment, but I'll be tracking this, seeing if the trend is directionally okay. But this is not the end all be all over the short term. It is about if the company is building a successful platform. So I'll also be listening to how they've improved their learning outcomes. I'll be listening to how AI improves how well they teach, right? And I know that AI improves how well they teach. So obviously, data that points towards them succeeding with the ambitions that they stated in the last quarter of increasing learning efficiencies and subscriber growth. So how well is learning proficiency coming along, and how do they see their growth in user base over the long term? So basically, I'll be tracking the elements for both companies that points towards them building a platform that yields happiness and better experiences that over the long term will lead to higher monetization. This is what I'll be tracking, and this is what I'll be looking for in these companies. I own both stocks and I own both companies, and I think that over the long term, they're positioning themselves very well in terms of capturing the full market. Now, as I said, I do own these companies. Be well aware of that when you're watching this video. I own shares in both companies, so I might be biased, right? But I think tracking these processes of value creation will actually give you and provide you some sort of northern star when looking at and tracking these companies. It'll give you insight. It'll give you directional knowledge of what to look for, and not just or make it so that you sell based on a bad earnings. So thank you for watching, guys. I appreciate your time, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.